Darrell Foster has been teaching Hollywood how to fight on screen for more than 2 decades. He transformed Will Smith into Muhammad Ali and Miles Taylor into Winnie Baz. The trainer and life coach rebuilt Farhan Akhtar for Toofaan, not only transforming his body to look like a fighter's, but also his mind to think like one. Here's Foster imparting mantras on health, mind, and surviving the pandemic.
We start with the attitude, try to establish where they are in terms of natural physicality. Everything is very script specific in terms of what look we need to have, what performances we need to have, establish short-term goals, long-term goals, and then try to just integrate muscle strength and endurance, stretching and flexibility, cardiorespiratory fitness, breaking down the script, breaking down, doing an action scene sort of analysis of what's going to be required, and just making sure we're all, on the same page. Usually, by the time I see the talent, everybody has a basic idea of what it entails, but they usually don't have the specific information how strenuous, it's going to be. So once we come to that common ground, we just we move past what the physical demands are going to be, and then get into story. All this comes out of initial production meetings. I don't. I just make the adjustment. We look at the scheduling, where certain scenes are going to be filmed, what locations, and what's the look it's going to entail. What I do is I get very specific in order to make it easier for the actor. Now, when you're talking in generalities, that's when things seem a little far-fetched, a little complicated. Right. So I won't just say you need to look smaller. I'll tell you need to come in at 210.5 for this scene. You need to come in at 200 for that scene. We need to try to get you 222 or back down to 198. So initially, it gives them a concept of how specific we're going to be, in our approach. And you just need to have a willing candidate to understand that if there's any chefs involved, if there's home cooking involved, because we can't wake up on location in the middle of the night and you're 10 pounds heavy, 5 pounds over, 6 pounds under. You know what I mean? It's too many people looking to us to be, professionals, so that it's not guesswork. I actually expect the same from camera, lighting, from everybody involved. We have our shot list, we have everything lined up. World-class filmmakers expect, the same from me. It was a really rewarding experience. I knew Farhan was a world-class actor and, executive with his own film company and all that, but what surprised me was how humble he was. His open book, empty, blank slate canvas approach. And of course, he interjected in terms of the plot structures, synopsis, storyline, as far as the emotional content that we needed to reach. And he's a stickler for detail as well, that each action scene had to serve the film, not just action for the sake of action. Each fight had to have a story of its own. I suggested had to impart upon the audience what was the emotional content that was weighing on Farhan's character, at the time. Ram's a sweetheart, he's a film buff like I am. We had many times not just talking about this film, sitting around having discussions about legendary films, great films. Ram relinquished the reins of being in charge to the experts that he hired. He was humble enough to say, what do you think or to answer questions, and his door swung both ways. So it made it an extremely pleasant experience to work on the film. Human body is a living, breathing organism, always trying to maintain homeostasis, or even balance. I went through 20 world-class training camps for professional fighters that were fighting for world titles. So the physicality and all of that part was my background, but often if there was a loss or some sort of problem with the champion losing his title, whatever, it was mental. And when I started working in films, I realized that there's so much dialogue and so much emotion and so much stuff that happens between the ears with talent that we need to have a plan in order the intellect and the anatomy to be trained in congruence. And that's how I developed that program. Your brain operates off glucose and oxygen. So we need to make sure that the physical steps that we take as far as training increase your body's ability to extract oxygen from your bloodstream, as well as your brain's ability to fire its synapse. It's what I call the barbells for the brain. Being the brain-derived neurotrophic factor happens when you tax the brain, while doing what I call it audio cardio, where you're listening to thought-provoking text, while doing some sort of cardiovascular activity. And I found that it works well. I mean, actors can come in, have 12 to 14-hour day that they're looking at, off book with their dialogue, and they're fresh and ready to go, with their action. I take the emphasis, off myself, try to live with a philosophy of how a human being should lead his life. I try to make sure and often think about, that poem of people go only, remember the dash between the day you were born and and the day you pass away. So how did you live your dash? And just live by example. I'm a do as I do trainer, not do as I say do. It's sermons we see. People rather see a sermon than hear one any day. They rather watch what you do than to listen to what you say. If I can say, drop down, give me 20 push-ups. It's different if I do 20 and then you do 20. So I say my set, your set. It's different than if I'm sitting in the corner barking out orders. Yeah, you can do it. It's like, yeah, how about we do it? It's just, I learned early on, sermons we see. It's how people operate best. This film has a lot to do with perseverance. If we all could just take the emphasis off ourselves and count our blessings. A lot of different people are of different religions, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, whatever. You may want to look to philosophy, Brahma, Jesus, or whoever. But, for me, as a Christian, I look at Jesus dying on the cross, and how God allowed his son to be crucified. And I look at that as the ultimate sacrifice. And so for me, when I look at suffering, I ask myself, am I worthy of my suffering? And so I would ask people to ask themselves, are you worthy of your suffering? I had an extremely rough childhood and was abused and went through hell and back. That allows me to be able to do what I do and people listen to me. That allows me to go to a college campus and speak to youth or gang members to listen to me about the right path in life. But they only listen to me because of my story. They only listen to me because I suffered. And they say, well, he knows because he's been through it too. So for us to come out on the other side of this pandemic, are we worthy of the suffering? Are we gonna be better people on the other side of it? Now will we come out of that cocoon, better people? And that would be the mission. Are we gonna come out anew?